All right, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Maria Molina live from the Fox Extreme Weather Center. Greg?
Testimony is underway this week in the Rutgers University trial. Darun Ravi is a student there accused of secretly video recording his gay college roommate, this man, Tyler Clemente, with another man. Clemente later committed suicide jumping off a bridge. Clemente's companion, known only as MB, telling the New Jersey courtroom he remembers seeing a camera on the night in question. Quote, "I had just glanced over my shoulder and I noticed there was a webcam that was faced toward the direction of the bed. Just being in a compromising position and seeing a camera lens, it just stuck out to me." Let's bring in our legal panel to discuss the case. Defense attorney Kisha Hebbon, former prosecutor Joey Jackson. Kisha wins only because she didn't bring an iPad for assistance. That's how smart she is.
Listen.
You brought an iPad. You need the help.
I need it whenever I'm on with Kisha, all right? Her superior knowledge and intelligence.
It's Ravi's defense that, look, the only reason I turned on that camera was because there was a stranger in my room, and I was worried about his maybe stealing my belongings there. But this stranger, MB, takes the witness stand. We don't know his name. His name is being protected.
Right.
He sort of blew a hole in the defense, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he said that he saw this webcam pointing in the direction of the bed, or wherever him and
Right.
Clemente were. You know, although this was a tragedy and a horrible outcome, I think it was just a prank that went bad.
Right.
But I do think
Really?
the prosecution will have a hard time.
But look, here's why I say he blew a hole in the defense. Because he talks about how they're in bed and suddenly he hears people giggling and laughing and making jokes outside the window.
But Greg,
So in other words, the defendant was publicizing this whole thing. That's not looking after your belongings. That's trying to mock somebody for being gay.
But you're talking about a college campus. You're talking about actually the campus that I lived on when I was an undergrad student. But you have students all over the dormitory, outside. I believe he said in the courtyard he heard people. So it's not necessary that they were laughing and joking about them.
What do you think, Joey?
Well, listen, Kisha's points are well stated, obviously, but I think the prosecution here has a very good case, and here's why. If you look at the invasion of privacy issue, that counts in and of itself.
Right.
You talk about a dormitory. It's a dorm room. There's a webcam set up. And Greg, if the purpose of the webcam was simply to look after his belongings because some stranger was there, why is it pointed in the direction of the bed? I thought things would be in a common area, if anything. So on the invasion of privacy claim, it's an issue.
But wait a minute. How can Ravi, the defendant, be guilty of invading his own privacy? It's his room.
That's an important point because there's a dormitory that's shared by 2 students. It's his room. He has every right to observe what goes on in that room.
Greg, here's the problem with that. There's a couple of problems. The first thing is he's out of the room. That's number one. And so certainly the suggestion is not when I'm out of my room that, you know, I should have an expectation of privacy there.
A nanny cam or whatever.
But the second thing is that the roommate told him, listen, I need some quiet time, I need some private time. As a result, I need you to stay out of there. So I don't think that your right to privacy when you leave the room attaches. I think if a person's there, they expect it to be private and not broadcast and publicized to the universe.
Let me put up on the screen what MB testified to. Quote, "We were both lying together in bed. I could hear people talking in the courtyard, people joking, people laughing. It seemed like the jokes were at somebody else's expense." Well, they absolutely were, one would assume. So for the defendant to be able to say, look, the only reason I'm just protecting my belongings, no, he was doing much more than that, wasn't he?
Well, the big issue here is, even if that's the case, Greg, the state has to be able to prove that he was motivated by the purpose to intimidate this victim for his sexual orientation, and I think that's a very difficult burden for the state to overcome.
How do you prove intent, Joey?
Well,
I mean, bias intimidation is an intent crime. You have to demonstrate that you harbor a bias. How do you demonstrate
Let me do it for you right now. You tell other people that you believe, you have these suspicions that your roommate is gay. As a result of that, you set up a webcam. Now you see it, you initially see that there is a kiss between the two. You then tweet to other people and invite them to join in because I'm going to set up the cam again and I'm going to direct it in the bed for them because I know that there's going to be something that's going to be done.
Bias based on homosexuality?
Yes, there's no direct evidence. And was it to intimidate him or to embarrass him?
I think it's...
The statute says intimidate. anonymity.
Right. I think there's a humiliation factor
point.
here. There's an intimidation factor here. And I think when you invite other people to join in and have popcorn while people are engaged in intimate relations,
You sure that's
problematic.
intimidation and not embarrassment, as Kisha points out?
I think clearly
How do you know
here,
the difference?
Well, I think the difference is this. I think the difference is that when you voice concerns about someone's sexual orientation, when you say you're uncomfortable with
Right.
someone's sexual orientation,
But where did
when
he
you
say
invite
that?
others, to other people who have testified, who have indicated that he had this discomfort about his sexual orientation, and as a result wanted to demonstrate to the world that he was gay.
Got to leave it at that.
Guilty.
I'm afraid we're out of time. You know, it's a close case, I think, isn't it? It's a very close
It's a
case.
close
I
case.
agree.
Yeah. All right. Joe Jackson, Kisha Hebbon, thanks very much.
Thank you, Greg.
All right. Heather?
Washington Caucus Day, dozens of delegates at stake, but Texas Congressman Ron Paul, the only Republican candidate even in the state today. Will it give him the boost that he needs to secure his first win?
Most people think of Washington as being a more liberal state, but they might be more concerned about
to a region where certain tell your doctor if you have had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have symptoms such as fever, fatigue, cough, or sores. You should not start Humira if you have any kind of infection. Ask your rheumatologist how you can defend against and help stop further joint damage with Humira.
Sunday, a Super Tuesday special. Before the primary states head to the polls, Frank Luntz takes the pulse of America's voters. Plus, DC's biggest power players weigh in on what the big day really means for the GOP race. Sunday, don't miss our Super Tuesday special.
The Fox News alert and scenes of utter devastation playing out across the U.S. after a massive outbreak of deadly tornadoes reshapes the landscape of America's South and Midwest. Hello, everybody. I'm Rick Fulbaum.
And I'm Marthel Neville. Welcome to a brand new hour of America's News Headquarters. That storm Rick is reporting about, that storm system still posing problems for some southeastern states. And after the devastating twisters that wiped whole towns off the map in the Midwest, people are preparing for the worst.
We've got Fox team coverage for you. Jonathan Seri is in Delano, Tennessee. Meteorologist Maria Molina is in the Extreme Weather Center. Mike Tobin is in Henryville, Indiana. Let's check in with Mike Tobin first. Mike.
And Rick, everywhere you look is another profound scene of destruction. You can imagine what it was like in this house as a tornado roared overhead. The roof of the house was pulled right off, the windows all blown out. Now, the location here is right across the street from what you heard of now, the Henryville High School, where students were sheltering in place. The local emergency authorities say this is proof that their early warning system worked because of all the people who were sheltering in that high school. Only one person was killed. I want to show you amateur video out of Pekin, Indiana, where you can see the funnel cloud forming in the sky, reaching its fury and reaching down toward the earth and cutting its path of destruction. As you see it work along the ground, we now know from the National Weather Service that debris was pulled some 5,000 feet in the air before it was deposited. We also know as that tornado was working its way along the ground, 4 people on that particular scene were killed. Marysville, Indiana. You see a scene now where the homes were ripped right down to the foundation as if they hadn't been built yet. The absolute force of that storm wiped